So by all accounts, week 1 was a smash hit for the XFL, whether you're talking broadcast, the quality of broadcast, in-game atmosphere, or the play on the field itself. I believe overall the XFL hit a home run in terms of their content. There was a lot of buzz on social media. And before we moved to week 2, I thought we would look back at week 1 and 8 things that we learned from week 1 of the XFL season. And I think you have to start, in my opinion, with the young quarterbacks that shined in week 1. And we're specifically talking about Jordan Ta'amu and Philip Walker. And Kenny, I know you're super psyched because Philip Walker was your starting quarterback for fantasy. What a value pick, man.
I said it on the show, man. He was $7,800 and one of the cheapest quarterbacks you could get. And I was like, in that offense, there's no way that he's not my starter. Right. I mean, he ended up 23 for 39, 272 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. By all accounts, I mean, should be probably the XFL's calling it the star of the week. Is what they're labeling it. He should be the star of the week. I mean, they absolutely dominated LA. He played a pretty flawless game. I'd like to see his completion percentage go a little higher, but for week 1, first time playing together, it's not that big a deal. And then Jordan Ta'amu played just as well, man. You're talking he was 20 for 27, 74% completion percentage, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, just very, very efficient. And by the way, he's the 3rd leading rusher in the XFL with 9 carries for 77 yards. So he was killing it through the air and on the ground. And the XFL's got to be really excited to have 2 young guns who are looking more than capable of leading their teams.
Yeah, Kenny, you stole my thunder. I think what you saw out of Jordan Ta'amu is kind of what we all expected. If you see Matt Jones's numbers, 21 rushing attempts, so they're really trying to get the run game established.
That's a little shocking too, that he had the bulk of the carries, isn't it, Gless? We were all expecting Christine Michael.
No, it's definitely Matt Jones, but you can kind of see what St. Louis is trying to do, and if you saw what they're trying to do on offense, kind of look like a college offense, which I think is great for the talent that they have. But look, they wanted to establish the run. They wanted to get his legs going so that he'd have easy, high percentage throws, 20 for 27, as Kenny said earlier, 1 touchdown. Efficient, he was moving the chains, and he was really that dual threat, right? And anytime that you have a quarterback that can use his legs, the defense has to bring that extra defender to account for him, right? You just can't run 0 coverage and hope for the best, right? You have to play some zone coverage in there. So as you can see, Ta'amu really, really impressed. And Philip Walker shouldn't shock anybody. I mean, it's a run and shoot quarterback. I mean, they're going to sling it around. That's what they're going to do. They don't want to run the ball. They're going to go 4 or 5 wide, and they're going to give him a shot. I agree with Kenny. I'd like to see his completion percentage up, but 4 touchdowns, man, it's really hard to beat that.
The thing that really excited me, Gless, about Philip Walker's performance is the command of the offense that he had. So both of these guys, and we talked about this extensively in other segments, that some legitimate concerns that we had for these 2 quarterbacks is that they were both in quarterback competitions right up to the start of the season. And honestly, you wouldn't know it by the way that they played. Philip Walker, it was so exciting because we all know, well, both of these guys have the ability to use their legs, but Philip Walker, he is a pass-first quarterback. He is. And the way that he maneuvered through the pocket and kind of felt the pressure and was able to step up, and he kept his eyes downfield the entire time. He hit one of his receivers, I think it was Mobley, for a long score. He could have ran for a first down, but he saw Mobley going down the sideline open from the DBs, and he was able to hit him. So keep being able to keep your eyes downfield while feeling the pressure is extremely impressive, and that's what stood out to me when I saw Philip Walker play.
Philip definitely made some big boy throws. That throw down the middle to Nick Holley I think to like the 2 or 1 yard line was in double coverage over the linebacker. Like that was a NFL caliber throw.
That was a baller play, both sides of receiver and quarterback.
And then he hit, like you said, he hit Mobley for a long touchdown. He hit Cam Phillips early in the game for a big touchdown. And then Ta'amu with his touchdown at towards the end of the game in the 4th quarter. That was his second and third read. You could tell he went through his progression before he finally hit that guy in the back of the end zone. So very encouraging signs from both guys.
Yeah, my hat's off to Chuck Long. I thought his game plan fit Jordan Ta'amu and that offense perfect, right? Again, like I said earlier, really established the run, trying to ease him in, give him some high percentage throws. And I'll give Ta'amu a lot of credit. He made some big throws. So both kids, very impressive.
Yeah, so before we move on, the one thing that impressed me about Ta'amu, well, there were a lot of things that impressed me, but the thing that impressed me the most was him at the end of the game, the poise, the composure, the leadership that he showed, because he is extremely young. He is a rookie quarterback playing in his first professional football game. And honestly, you would never know it if you didn't know how young he was. And just the fact that he was able to take his team down late in the fourth quarter, that huge QB draw, was able to use his legs, and then, like you guys mentioned, find his receiver, going through multiple progressions to get to that receiver. That just shows a lot of poise, and it really confirms why we were so excited as a show about the upside of Jordan Ta'amu. So if you're the XFL, you're ecstatic right now that you have these two quarterbacks that performed so well in week one, and hopefully they can build on that momentum. So let's go to the opposite side for the second thing that we learned. And the Vipers were a complete cluster, and especially at the quarterback position. And I think the second thing that we learned is the Vipers have real issues at quarterback. You guys know, and I've said it repeatedly on this show, and no one ever listens to me, that I am just not sold on Aaron Murray. He was a fantastic college quarterback at Georgia, but he has not shown at the professional level that he can get the job done. And the fact that they just kept with him, it worries me, because that shows me that Trestman doesn't have confidence going deeper into his quarterback room. They got Quentin Flowers in there, but those were designed read options. Like, those weren't, he wasn't replacing Murray. And even when Quentin Flowers got in and was having some success, keeping the defense honest, I remember one time late in the game, they're looking to score their first touchdown, and Quentin Flowers is taking him down the field. They get to like the 5-yard line. They bring Aaron Murray back in, and he throws a duck lane pass, and they just have to settle for the field goal. It's like, what are you doing? like why are you so attached to Aaron Murray? So I think that the Vipers have a ton of talent on their team, and particularly the offensive side of the ball. But you need a quarterback that can get you the ball, and I'm not sure that the Vipers have that guy on their roster.
That's a great observation, Riley, because I agree. Now, to your point, I think Trestman doesn't have a lot of confidence in that quarterback room. He has some packages with Quentin Flowers. There's no doubt about it. But to be honest with you, he probably ran out of plays to call for Quentin Flowers, right? I mean, he had him in there for a good amount in the second half. Look, there's no doubt about it. I wasn't a big Aaron Murray fan coming in. If you go back to our quarterback rankings, didn't play well in the AAF at all for the Atlanta franchise. And I know that was kind of a different situation, but this is a second chance for him. He's really got to step up and go. Now, I tweeted throughout the game that I think Aaron Murray still gives you your best chance to win, because more than likely he knows the offense better than anyone. But Mark Trestman's got to get another guy ready to go, because there's too much talent on that offense to score 3 points. There just is. So.
Yeah, if Aaron Murray plays the first half of the second game the way he did against the Guardians, you've got to pull him. I don't think you can keep him in. You can't justify it. And he completed 47% of his passes and had 2 back-breaking interceptions in the red zone. One was in the end zone, and the other one was when they were in the red zone. And because they had over 400 the offense was moving at a pretty credible pace. They had over 400 total yards of offense, or 300. I think it was like 380. I'm sorry,
Kenny. They had 394 yards of total offense, most of any team this weekend.
Yep.
Think about that.
Back, and I don't like to ever put a loss on one particular player, but it's really hard not to put it on Murray because of those back-breaking turnovers that he had, and they just could not get them points while in the red zone. So it's highly concerning. Like I said, anytime you're completing 47% of your passes, that's really, really bad. And if he plays like that in the first half of the second game, I think if you're Trestman, you've got to yank him out of there and see what either Cornelius or Flowers has.
One thing in his defense, his receivers did not help his case at all. There were a lot of drop passes. We are very high on Nick Truesdale on the show. Yep. He made one spectacular catch earlier in the game, but he had a lot of drop passes. He had that fumble. There were drop passes in the red zone. Yeah, it was missed blocks. Yeah, it was a sloppy game all around, but like we just mentioned, they had the most yards of any team in the XFL this weekend, which is crazy to think, because they didn't score a single freaking touchdown. That shows you how bad they were in the red zone, and that's concerning. And the one thing that really just annoyed me during the game is, my feelings for Aaron Murray, but you also know my feelings for Quentin Flowers. And it's not necessarily at the quarterback position, but I was fully expecting the Vipers to utilize him, not just in the shotgun and, the read option, but use him at running back. get him out in the slot. Like, he is an athlete. He is a football player. You got to find ways to get that guy the ball because he's one of the best players on your team. And I just felt like they didn't use him in any creative ways. And then the second that he actually gets a little bit of momentum going, you pull him out of the game. So I was very disappointed in that, but I'm still not off the Vipers bandwagon. I still have faith in them, considering the stats that we're seeing. They just have to clean up the red zone issues, and they were very, very undisciplined. A lot of penalties. They had the only guy in the entire league to get thrown out of the game. So that was embarrassing.
Yep.
Yeah, Ricky Walker. So as a Virginia Tech fan, that's very embarrassing. And it was a clear, like, he just socked the guy in the face. It was unbelievable to watch. So it's just all around, just a day to forget for the Vipers. I'm not totally off the bandwagon, but it's not a great start to the season at all. Let's go to our third thing that we learned in week 1. Seattle isn't going to be as bad as people think. Glessner put this one together. So, Gless, I'm going to let you open it up, and then I'm going to go to Kenny because Kenny disagrees with you, sir.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you go back and watch the game, I remember thinking, I mean, for most of the game, it was pretty close. I really like what Seattle does on offense. I thought that they were very methodical. Their running backs averaged 6 yards, 4 yards, and 5.5 yards for all three of them. They really distributed the ball nicely between Prohl, Williams, Rodriguez, Johnson, Farrow. All these guys had 4 or 5 catches apiece. I thought that it was a very West Coast style type of offense. They got Brandon Silvers moving. Now, I know he didn't have the best day. What? But look, Prohl doesn't fall down on that 4th down, and they don't fumble at the 6. They win the game. So the game was a lot closer than 12 because they were right on the cusp of winning it. And I was extremely impressed at Seattle on defense. I mean, the defenders had to do a double reverse pass, had to block a punt, and then had to get a pick 6 to beat them, right? Like, it wasn't like the defenders' offense was that great all day by any means. So I was really impressed by the Seattle Dragons' defense as well. I think if Silvers can play better, even though I thought he made some great throws throughout the day, he also made some really bad throws too. So I'm not escaping that. But
pick 6 wasn't his fault, though.
No, pick 6 wasn't his fault. Prohl fell down. So I think they're going to be better than people think. I think they'll actually be better than 8. Right? They won't be the worst team in the league, and I think they'll be competitive. I really do. I was very impressed with what I saw Saturday.
I'll say this as a team, and I'm not going to put it on any one player, even though I think Silvers did play a really bad game. I think as a team, I think DC just played kind of blah football in the first half and then really just kind of poured it on in the second half. I think what we saw in the second half was more of a reality than what we saw in the first half. And for me, I saw Brandon Silvers throw at least 2, if not 3 passes that literally hit DC defenders, defensive backs in the chest or in the hands that they flat out dropped. So he should have had almost probably 4 or 5 interceptions. Now, granted, I will agree with you there. That pick 6 was not his fault. Prohl did fall down, and it happens. But on the other side of that coin is there probably should have been more interceptions of that. But then you had the fumble in the red zone where he tried to pull the ball, and it was just that was a big cluster. And then, on special teams, that block punt happened right in front of me. And I mean, the up back totally whiffed. I mean, totally missed a guy coming through. Yeah. And so it's just concerning from all 3 phases. I wasn't overly impressed. And the double reverse pass was kind of a trick play. But then Kari Lee still literally just juked out 2 guys in open field to get in the end zone. It's not like he's a great tight end, but he's not some shifty player. He just literally juked them out of their shoes and got it. So I just wasn't overly impressed. Maybe saying they're the worst team is too harsh, but honestly, I was the most disappointed in their play of any team I saw all weekend.
Really, even Tampa and Dallas. I thought Dallas looked terrible. Like
I was with you, Kenny, till you said that.
I thought Dallas looked bad, but I think if Dallas had Landry, it would have been a different scenario. I think they probably would have won the game, to be honest. But I thought they looked worse than Tampa Bay because at least Tampa was moving. Tampa just has to execute better. They just have to be better in the red zone. If they clean up one thing, they're that game's at least competitive. They still might not win that game because the Guardians looked really good, but I just thought overall. To me, I thought the second half was more indicative of how the teams were actually playing, and I just was not impressed with Seattle.
The defenders in the first half reminded me of how I saw them at minicamp, was just sloppy on the offensive side of the ball. And I was starting to get worried for the defenders. I was like, wow, maybe this is just who they are. But like Glessner said, the Dragons, they stayed true to their identity in the first half. They ran the ball effectively. And I was so surprised that the Seattle Dragons defensive line was able to shut down for the entire game, not just the first half, but the entire game they shut down the DC defenders' running attack, which I know a lot of people think is the best combination of running backs in the entire league.
Dude, the Seattle defensive line was running circles around the DC defenders' offensive line. Like, it was embarrassing. I mean, Cardell Jones played his tail off, made a lot of really great throws. Yeah, he reminded me a lot of Ben Roethlisberger out there, really avoided taking a lot of sacks and really made some great throws on the run. But, you know, it took a lot of really, really great plays to beat Seattle team. Again, I'm not saying they're great by any means. I'm just saying they're better than I thought they were going to be.
So there you go, Seattle fans. Something to be super optimistic about. They're not great, but they're not as bad as we thought they were going to be. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to number 4. And number 4 is just a no-brainer. I mean, Houston was so fun to watch. That offense is going to score a ton of points this year. And just seeing Philip Walker and the chemistry that he has developed with those wide receivers. And that is with Sammy Coates having a bad game. Like, Sammy Coates did not play well. He had like 2 or 3 really bad drops in that game. But Khalil Lewis was a beast. Cam Phillips, who we've talked about numerous times on the show, he scored the first touchdown. And Nick Hawley had that, SportsCenter top 10 play. Like, they have some players on that team. And for their number 1 receiver, Sammy Coates, to have such a bad game and for their offense to look that good, it's pretty scary.
Yeah. The rest of the league should be on notice because, and then Gless has referred to this a bunch of times. It takes a lot of repetition. It takes a lot of time to get yourself really ingrained in the run and shoot offense because you got a lot of different reads, a lot of different players who are making different reads at the same time, and everybody has to be on the same page. So if they come out game 1 and they throttle their opponent and they look that good, but then you think, like, this is week 1, they still have room for improvement. The rest of the league is better take notice because I think Houston could absolutely run away with the West if the West isn't careful.
Yeah, they're going to score a ton of points. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You saw, just like Kenny referred to, week 1. And again, think college football, right? When people play Navy, people play Air Force, people play Army, it's so different than what you see any other time.
It's just so hard to prep for them.
It's so hard to prep because you just don't see it every day. And the run and shoot's all option. It's called option routes, where everybody has option routes, right? All based on how the defense is set up. Now, there's a lot of option routes in other offenses, but it's generally one player because it's designed to go to this player. But the run and shoot, it's all 4 and 5 guys, right? And they have specific jobs, and it's such a different animal. And unfortunately, Pepper Johnson just had to get the brunt of it in the first week. But it's going to make her,
man. Talk about your ultimate scapegoat.
It's going to be the scapegoat. And on top of that, guys, they got studs out there. Like, just because Sammy Coates didn't have that great of a game, like, they have other dudes out there that are going to catch a lot of balls too. They're not going to run the ball a whole lot. PJ Walker looks like to be the real deal, really likes to sling it around. So they're going to score a lot. I would anticipate they're scoring 30-plus a game. I'd be stunned to see anything else.
Like, are they going to get? Is the Houston offense going to get every defensive coordinator fired in this league?
That's right.
They're gonna cause a lot of defensive coordinator sleepless nights. That's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding.
But on the other side of the ball too, what was impressive was their defense. Like, we talk a lot about how great that offense is and how prolific it is, and that's true. That's the main focal point and the identity of the team. But Coney Ely, guys, half a sack. Three tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hurries. Like, the guy absolutely was in the backfield all game, just creating havoc. And if your offense is that prolific and now your defense is living up, like, they only have to have a top 3 or 4 defense, 4 or 5 defense. They don't even have to have an elite defense. They just have to have a defense who can stop the other team a couple times just to give their offense a little bit of a buffer. So to have him come out and show out like that is really huge for their team.
All right, so let's move on to another team that was super impressive. The New York Guardians really played well. And we for the most part, we think the Vipers is an upper tier team. I mean, at least on paper they are, in our opinion. And they just shut them down all game. And we knew how good the secondary was, but I think actually seeing it take shape in person, I mean, those guys get after it. And it wasn't just the secondary, the entire defense. The Vipers had a decent amount of success with Davion Smith in the run, but they were very opportunistic. They caused a lot of turnovers. We obviously talked about Aaron Murray and his situation, but that fumble that Jamar Summers was able to take to the house, they're just a defense that it's full of ball hawks, and it's super scary, and probably, I think, out of week one, the most impressive defensive unit so far.
Yeah, I tell you what, there wasn't a lot of windows to throw through. I feel like anytime Aaron Murray dropped back to pass, I mean, it was just a New York Guardian just right there, like white on rice, man. I mean, it was nowhere to really throw the ball. So I wonder, when Trestman looks back at the film, sometimes if your guys can't make plays and can't get open, it's like, what can I do?
That's going to be some rough film to watch if you're Trestman.
It's going to be a rough film, but
it's so many missed opportunities in that game.
Yeah, for sure. But I'll give the New York secondary tons of credit. They played outstanding. There really wasn't a whole lot of places to throw the ball. And then guys, where I was really impressed with was the New York Guardians receiving core. And how Matt McGloin was really able to exploit the ball down the field. I didn't think he had a great day by any means, but he was really able to stress the Tampa Bay defense down the field, really on a lot of the vertical routes down the field, couple for scores. Really was able to keep the defense honest. So I was really impressed by the receiving core and Matt McGloin.
Yeah, Mikhail McKay and Colby Pearson both had great games offensively for the Guardians, and this is without their top two receivers on paper, Tanner Gentry and D'Angelo Yancey. So it really shows how deep of a receiving core they have, and New York fans have to be excited for when those guys eventually come back and add more firepower to that offense. And Victor and Cook look good too. Victor was bulldozing people. I was very impressed with the balance of the offense of the Guardians. And to kind of go back on defense, I got to say, man, you're talking about guys like Jamar Summers, AJ Hendy, Bryce Jones, Soro, like those guys were all over the place on defense.
They were all over the place. I tell you what, they were so fast. The speed was impressive. Yeah.
Yes, no fly zone for sure in the secondary.
Draped all over receivers. They were so physical. I recall this one where Truesdale was about to make an acrobatic catch, and he got freaking sandwiched between two Guardian defensive backs. They were laying the wood on guys. They were not only flying all over the place, but they were physical. And it was super, super fun to watch. And you guys mentioned McGloin. He may not have had the most efficient game, but he was able to make big plays when it counted. And, I picked the Vipers to win this game purely on the fact that, one, I do like the Vipers, at least their roster makeup, but also that the Guardians were going into this game without two of their top three receivers. And that clearly wasn't an issue for them. So they have a deep roster. And if you're a Guardians fan, I would be super pumped moving into week two. So let's go ahead and move on. And we're going to talk about the Renegades here. And I think, Glessner, you mentioned it, that they were your least impressive team of week number one. And in my opinion, I think the Renegades are in deep, deep trouble if Landry Jones cannot stay healthy throughout the season. Philip Nelson ain't the answer.
No. I mean, it was just check down city, right? I mean, if you look at his stats,
it was so hard to watch.
Yeah, like if you look at his stats, they weren't like awful, but they weren't. They certainly weren't fantastic by any means because it was constantly check down. And, at some point, you got to be able to stretch down the field, in the air raid offense. Running game was less than impressive. I think Lance Dunbar led the team in 5 rush. I mean, they didn't run the ball well. I didn't think the defense was very stout. I thought that they gave St. Louis a lot, kind of let them meticulously go down the field. So I'm with you, Riley. I think they're in trouble if they can't get a quarterback in there that can really stretch the defense and really keep them honest, because I didn't see anything on offense that would scare me as a defensive coordinator.
No, Dallas is in big trouble if Landry Jones stays injured or gets re-injured or isn't able to play at his full capacity, because like we talked about, Philip Nelson, there was nothing he did that made that they they were just basically daring to beat him deep, and he couldn't do it. And I thought it was a very interesting quote Philip Nelson said after the game. He said that you have to have a capacity for boredom in this offense, which basically meant like he was encouraged to check down. But if you're a backup quarterback, man, and Landry Jones is coming back next week, you've got to roll the dice a little bit. You've got to gamble, because either way, Landry Jones, whether you play great or bad, is going to start next week. So I was very disappointed the fact that he just was just taking what the defense gave him and kind of just taking these little check down routes and progressions.
Well,
it was very bad.
Yeah. Now I certainly don't disagree, but you're not going to throw the ball into double coverage if they're dropping 8 guys, right? And I think that's kind of what he was trying to say, because if you look at all the receiving stats, a lot of running backs, a lot of short passes, slants, crossing routes. He didn't want to make a mistake. And sometimes and the game was also close too, right? So you certainly don't want to make a mistake when the game is close and throw a pick and put your team in a bad situation. Did he play fantastic? Not by any means, but I don't think that he ultimately lost the game. I mean, he didn't turn he had 1 pick. He spread the ball around, but I tell you what, guys, with a lot of those checkdowns, somebody's got to make a play. I mean, you got to break tackles. You got to break tackles. You got to make guys miss. And you got to make your quarterback look good. So, although that, Nelson check down, I don't give their skill guys a pass either. And how about Cameron Artis-Payne only getting, I think, what did he get? 3 carries?
He had Glessner.
2 carries.
He had more passing yards than he had rushing yards. He was 1 for 1 with 10 yards passing, and he had 2 attempts for 6 yards rushing. How the hell does that happen?
I don't know.
Like,
if it fooled me, I thought Artis-Payne was going to be kind of the bell cow, but apparently I was wrong. So
hope if you're a Renegades fan, you're hoping and praying Landry Jones is back next week. But which it sounds like by all accounts he will be. But that's you've got to be hoping he's back.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the next thing that we learned, and that is point after conversions were hard to come by. I don't know if this is shocking to you guys, but to me, I was a little bit shocked of how just in disarray. I actually think looking at the percentages, 2 points were a little bit more successful than 1 point. I think we were around 38% for 2 points. Is that something that you expect to see throughout the season, or do you expect that to increase as we go throughout the season?
So I think 2 points is going to be the sweet spot, and for our listeners, all of our listeners out there, it was interesting. Riley and I were in the press conference with Pep Hamilton, and they asked him the question on, hey, what was the thought process behind going for 2, going for 1, and he blatantly said, look, neither team was good in it today. And he's like, really, though? It's a lot tougher than you think, right? So if you're from the 5-yard line, you've got that 12th man, which is the back of the end zone. And he was like, we tried to use Tyree Jackson in the quarterback run game, but, they sent so many guys that we didn't account for it. He's like, it's something we got to take a look at. But scoring from the 2-yard line is really a lot harder than it looks. And I thought that was interesting, and I think there's a lot of truth to that because everybody had issues with it this week.
I think as the season progresses, we'll see teams kind of get a feel for what they want to run down there. I think the first week is always going to be probably a bit of an outlier just because it's so new and it's never been done in a game before. So I think as the season progresses, they're going to find a sweet spot. And Gus, I think you're right. The 2-point conversion is a sweet spot. What I thought was interesting is not one team tried a 3-point conversion, and there was a couple defensive touchdowns and a special teams touchdown in the DC game. Yeah. So I know we had heard rumors that with coaches saying that if we score a defense or a special teams touchdown, that we're automatically going to go for 3. So I thought it was very interesting that there wasn't one attempted at all.
Had Seattle scored to make it 26. To make it 25-31, I thought they would have gone for 3 because had they got the 3-pointer, they'd only been down a field goal. I think that would have been the only chance.
Were you part of those chants at Audi Field going to urging Pep Hamilton to go for 3 after every score?
I thought, dude,
3. Go for 3.
Dude, I thought you were going to ask about the Cardell MVP chance. No,
that too, I guess.
Yes, I actually was a part of the go for 3 chance because I wanted to see a 3-point conversion, man. Yep. Especially on the block punt and the pick 6.
Yeah, we have to move on to the last one, but I will say I don't think you should expect to see 3-point attempts unless a team is down by a lot late. No team attempted one this weekend, and I agree with you, Gless. I think 2 points is going to be that sweet spot that I think teams are going to start to find their way, and it
give
kind
you a
of
little
was
bit
all
of
over the
room.
map. It was clear that coaches had no idea how to handle it this weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
There was absolutely no strategy. Like, I guess we'll go for one. I don't know. I guess we'll go for two.
Right.
There was
See
no
works,
rhyme or reason. There was no rhyme or reason behind it this weekend.
Yep.
All right, so let's move to our last one, and this was interesting because we were at live at the DC Seattle game, so we didn't really get to see the TV broadcast, but we caught the other games. And man, they were impressive. Both ESPN and Fox, just the professional quality. And on the sideline, it was really cool. At the DC game, I was seeing Diana Rossini literally sprinting down the field, like legit sprinting down the field. Like after that pick six, all of a sudden you see Diana Rossini and her crew just sprinting down the field to make sure they got an interview after that pick six. So like they were hustling down there. Tom Luganbill as well. So kudos to them. But it was so much fun to just see ESPN and Fox taking the XFL so seriously and pride in their productions. The camera angles were fantastic. The announcers were prepared. The replays were great. It just everything for the first weekend of a new league. It was so professional and well done. So kudos to ESPN and Fox.
Yep. I absolutely love the live interviews, like with the coach or a player right as something pivotal happens. Like I know obviously in the DC game, and we didn't see it till later, but they interviewed the starting center for Seattle, who had just gotten flagged for a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty. He's walking off the field, and they interview him. And he drops a hard F-bomb. So I mean, I love it though. And then you had guys like McAfee and Rossini on the sideline getting live interviews. Like it was really fun. And you talked about the camera stuff. I noticed that there was as the offensive line was walking up to the football, you had a camera vision of it, and then the cameraman basically walked through the offensive line and got off the field. I thought that was super cool. And then did you guys see when there was a rogue snap and the ball got by Tiamu, and the camera guy is sprinting
just
behind
hauling.
Tiamu to get out of the way, and he's still trying to film as like,
that.
oh my gosh, it's hysterical, Riley. You have to go back and watch it. The ball gets by Tiamu, and the camera guy's just sprinting, trying to get out of the way, and all still trying to film it as it's going on. It's so funny.
That's awesome.
Commitment right there. That's commitment.
That's right. Riley, I agree with you. So there's 2 points I want to make on this. One, watching the New York Guardians Tampa Bay game, and I was sitting with my girlfriend watching the game, sitting there tweeting with you guys up on Discord. And she looks at me and she says, the angles are just incredible. I feel like I'm on the field. She's like, and she came to the Defenders game and said the same thing, like, just seeing some of the replays. And she was like, it's just the production value is unlike anything I've seen in sports. So if it can capture her attention, I'm sure it captured everybody else's. So that's one. The second thing that I think is really cool, and this is kind of the nerd coach's mind for me, is hearing the coaches call plays.
Yeah.
And, one instance, and I heard a replay of it this morning of the Defenders game, is they went up on a 4th down and Pep Hamilton's in there, and it's not rocket science, even numbered plays are to the right, odd numbers played to the left, right? If anybody who's played football kind of knows that. And, he calls, 68. He's like, no, timeout. We just showed him a look to the right. Let's show him a look to the left. They call timeout, come to the left. They get the first down. So you kind of see that chess game going on. And I thought that was awesome. I think that is so worth the value of what the XFL is going to bring to the fans.
Yeah, and what was cool was the players and coaches all were very complimentary of it after the game when asked about it. Like nobody had any gripes. They were very like, "This is cool. We think it brings an element." About it. Yeah. They were like, "It brings an element for the fans that they don't get to see in any other sport." Like it was really neat. And then one other thing before we wrap. Did you guys see Jim Zorn? The video of him, he was covering his mouth trying to hide what he was going to say, and the announcers like, "I don't know."
Hear him.
Yeah, and they're like, "Jim, you're mic'd up, man."
Yeah, he said in the press conference, Kenny, he said in the press conference that he wasn't thinking about that at all. So he doesn't even know what he said, how he came off, because he wasn't thinking about that at all. Where Pep Hamilton, it was interesting because Pep Hamilton said, I knew the second they put that mic on me, I knew it was there the whole time.
Yeah.
By the way, Gless, how psyched did you get when you got to ask Pep Hamilton a
question? Oh, I was so jacked up. I was fired up. I know.
I saw beads of sweat coming down Glessner's head. He was so excited.
I actually listened to myself. So for you guys out there, if you don't know, like that's the first press conference I've ever been to as a member of the media, right? Member of the press. So I'm just like, I had a really good question I wanted to ask Pep, and I'm sitting there, and the first time I ask, I get cut off by somebody because I asked it the same time as someone else. So I was like, whew, all right, Brandon, got to get up there. You got to ask the question. Regroup. So I say it, and I actually listened to myself yesterday because I had my audio on my phone. I recorded the whole interview. And like you could tell for the first 5 seconds, like my voice cracked twice because I was just so nervous to ask.
I was panicking for you. I was like, oh boy.
But I finally got it out, and it was cool. You could tell that Pep really liked my question because he went on for about 3 minutes about it.
It was a nerdy football question.
It was a nerdy football question.
Shocker.
But he loved it because everybody else asked him softball questions like, hey, how did it feel to coach in the first XFL game ever? And he's like, okay. I mean, it was cool. Like, I'm happy for the league, right? But
I went back and watched the press conference on the XFL website of Pep Hamilton, but you couldn't hear what the people who were asking questions were saying. But I knew it was your question when he answered it because I remember you telling me about it, and I was like, that had to have been it because he just went on like a 3-minute rant about schemes and everything like that and adjustments.
Let's go.
Yeah, because he stared at Glessner the whole time he was answering for like 3.5 minutes, and that's what I mentioned. Beads of sweat were coming down Glessner's head because he was getting so jazzed up that Pep Hamilton was talking directly to him. It was like a dream come true. But well done, Gless. You represented Chalk Talk very well. Guys, I'm extremely encouraged by the first weekend of the XFL. I know we're an XFL show, so you're probably like, yeah, you'll say that anyways. But in terms of being a new professional football league and having your first weekend go that smoothly bodes so well for the XFL. The attendance was pretty good. The stadium energy was awesome, especially in DC. And the broadcasts were professional. Like, it was really, really well done. And hopefully it only gets better from here. But I'm interested for everybody watching, what are some things that you learned from week 1 as we head into week 2? Leave those in the comment section below. Interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube at XFL Chalk Talk. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you get the latest news from XFL Chalk Talk, the latest videos when we post it. What's up, football fans? This is Riley from XFL Chalk Talk. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all things XFL and interact with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at XFL Chalk Talk.